Well, hello, hello, hello. How is it going? It's May 15th, 2024, and nothing has happened this week. Nothing at all. In fact, you know what? We should probably just stop right here. End it. We'll just say that I showed up, said hi, and I GTFO'd. Nah, this things happen. How's it going, Metric Brawl? How's it going, Austin? How's it going, Diablo? HTC HD2. Honestly, like, the title just struck me, and it just felt so right. AI at I.O. I see all Z's. Austin. Yeah. That Figma flowchart, I don't know what to make of that. Because wow, that is all over the place. And yeah, it actually does make more sense than anything Google said yesterday. But I suppose, let's see. I don't want to mess with that. Okay. Oops. I do not have my windows in the right places. But yeah. Yeah, this looks all kinds of crazy for anybody that didn't see it. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, that's fun. The chat window, since it's actually working for once, is conflicting with my head. Okay, how about let's move the webcam. It kind of works. It's a little better. Oh, and I did forget to, let's also shrink this down. Actually, okay, that's going to be kind of weird. So instead, we're going to do that. That way it sort of splits the names and the comments. All right. Oh, yes. Announced to the Discord. Well, okay, Brawl beat me to it. Let's see. So I'll just do that. Cool. All right. Announce made. Okay. Let's see. Okay, catching up. Wait, Metric Brawl, you put something in the RambleCast chat? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that will come up. I wasn't gonna spend a lot of time talking about it, but yeah, the notorious. They're now going to detect or predict scams. Yeah, there's some weird stuff that came out of I.O. Honestly, I kind of don't even know where to start. But yeah, so far this right here is all the stuff Google talked about that is AI related yesterday. In case it's not obvious, it's a lot. It is so much. Yeah, exactly. Holy chart. Someone charted all over my screen. So yeah, this kind of sums up Google I.O. as a whole yesterday, in fact, because it is just one AI thing after another. Honestly, I couldn't keep it straight. My there came a point where I just sort of felt my brain melting, which I almost feel like that's the point. And it's a little impossible to keep track of everything that they talked about. And a whole episode, frankly, could be spent just... Someone charted all over my screen. I was proud of that. That one came up at the last minute too. But frankly, Austin, I think a whole episode could be dedicated to just crawling the length of this chart. Because it's all over the place. They found ways to bring up Gemini over and over and over again. They brought up the various flavors of Gemini, including Nano. What I forget what the others are even marketed as, but they brought up so many different things, and the various. Oh yeah, sorry, it's Nano, 1.5 Pro, 1.5 Flash. I know that's not it. Because there was something that there was another version that that was like basically coming with Pro. I don't even remember that now. I don't remember the name. Of course, they brought up Gemma and Gems, which are on opposite ends of this, but they are, if I recall, aren't they related? And see, this is how confusing it was. I couldn't keep track of which things are related to what. Hello, Curvy. How's it going? So, yeah. This is the experience that they chose to give us. Incoming clip. Gems are run off of Android? Wait, what? Okay, I'm starting to wonder if I did not understand that presentation. Which, you know what? I'm sorry. I genuinely think that... I genuinely think that I did not understand enough of their keynote. And I could rewatch it, but I don't think it would do any good. Part of it being... A lot of it was unexplained. Okay, so there anything underlined, it has a link to the announcement. Wow. You did too much work on this. But anyway, I'm not going to try to cover everything that they said. In fact, I'm not going to try to cover that much of what they said about the AI, because so much of it, and I said this during the presentation, a lot of this does not really translate to real final products. Some of it made for demos, and some of it will appear in products, but for how long and in what form? Will it stay in those products? Will we have any clue what they'll become in 6 months to a year? How many of these things will be paid? And certainly, and I'm sure Metric Brawl will be able to will have some feelings on this, but how much of this stuff will even be available outside of, let's say, the US and a couple of other companies? Austin making the cursor attack. High five. So yeah, this whole thing is just wild. So oh, it's not you? Okay. Diablo. Yeah. the whole presentation was not great. And in fact, I'm not going to go into specifics on this, but let's just say I gave some input to a couple of titles at AP. Well, not necessarily the title. I did do some input on titles too, but I gave some suggestions that had to do with communication of the general feelings people had towards AI. Let's just say that. And some of the snark that will have come out of AP about the keynote, that was me. Basically encouraging that we snark a little bit, because clearly a lot of people weren't super thrilled with that keynote, nor should they be. It was part of it was not a very fun or interesting keynote, but a bigger part of it is, can't wait for the IO survey. Yikes. Yeah. The thing is, and honestly, I think this is why they did what they did for the keynote. I think this is why they're not really going to care about the survey answers. And I think this is why, frankly, this is what we should probably expect from IO for a while to come. I said it over and over again. The IO keynote was for investors this year. I think it has generally been that way for a while. But this year, I don't think they were hiding it. Not really. Obviously, like, they still announced products. They still discussed the things they're working on, and some of it in the context of what developers will be able to make use of. After all, this is ostensibly a developer conference. But that keynote, kind of like Apple's keynotes in the past, always includes some sort of, look how good we're doing, we're doing really awesome. That's what Google just did. And it's something to make the investors happy. It's something so that they can say, look, we're doing the AI thing we said we were going to. Look, we did it. And investors can look at this and say, yes, good for you. Now, did the stock price go up enough? Great, I shall sell some shares. If it didn't go up enough, it is your bad, and we're mad. That's what the whole presentation was. And I'm not sure that I can... I'm not sure what to say or do about that, because that's obviously the direction they currently care about, or at least that's what leadership cares about. They're appeasing the stock or the shareholders. So that's what we get. Let's see. What is sorry, I'm quickly reading through comments. Brawl. You put a Sony Xperia Z online and someone wants to trade 3 phones and a subwoofer for it. Goal was to get rid of it, and now you're getting more phones. I mean, who can go wrong with more phones, right? Austin, you did hear that they actually cut out Gemini Live demos after the GPT-04 announcement. I expect that they probably made a few creative changes, but it was also plainly obvious from that one where they did the whole show or point the camera at things and discuss with the AI what it sees, what it interprets, and asking it to like answer questions about the things. Those all feel like direct reactions to OpenAI's presentation, or well, at least their demo video. So the one thing that gets me is a lot of people are still saying that OpenAI is way out in front of Google, and admittedly, I'm just a dumb guy here watching video presentations, and I can't help but think, how? What is OpenAI showing off at this point that's actually ahead of Google? Maybe they're, I suppose their generative chat might have a few functions that Gemini does not have, but I'm not really clear on what at this point OpenAI is really excelling at. And I suppose we could have probably get into that subject much deeper, but it feels like Google is kind of caught up. I don't think anybody's I don't think there's much room to be out there saying that Google is really behind in this fight. More that I think they're very bad at describing and presenting what their AIs can do. But maybe I'm wrong. And let's see, Austin with the link to Twitter. Okay, so this is Google's DeepMind account and Project Astra giving a little test drive. Okay. Yes. Okay, so yeah, same gimmick, but this is the less exciting version of what it was doing or what they were showing off yesterday. The counterpoint to that, though, in fairness, is that this is showing a drawing, and instead of having a real world image to work from, the Project Astra is able to look at a drawing and interpret from the drawing what it represents. So it's cool. I mean, no denying that it is a cool thing. Okay, out of curiosity, and I just have to look it up. Why is Van Wilder trending on Twitter? Wait, what? Okay, sorry. No, I you know what? I'm not going to scroll further down. I don't care to see what else Twitter might show, which could very likely get this account in trouble. But this is just hilarious. I feel like this has got to be a joke, but apparently TJ Miller says Ryan Reynolds was a nobody before Deadpool, and he changed after its success. I mean, really? A nobody? Bro, did you not see Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle? Like, come on. He was the doctor. Bro. Or, well, he was a nurse. Sorry. But still, Ryan Reynolds was already somebody. All right. Anyway, so enough of the silliness. Okay, really quick. In all seriousness, is this notification important? Oh, someone that I have never heard of. Okay. Random. Okay. Cool. Anyway. So, yes. All right. We'll just use this as our backdrop. Anyway, so show of hands. Who here thought that was a really good Google I/O keynote? I think overall the opinion was not super positive. It was all AI. they did mention Android at least, which was impressive. Because honestly, at a certain point, I think they gave up trying to talk about anything else. They really just they made a few casual references to web. They brought out an Android person so they could pretend that Android was important. But outside of that, it was just literally 100% AI. Obviously, even Sundar was somewhat in on the joke, though it had that like, how do you do, fellow kids meme when Sundar is joking about how many times did we say AI? Yeah, I mean, literally, not even a joke, they averaged more than one instance per minute of saying AI. In a 2-hour presentation, before 2 hours was even up, they had said 120 times, ultimately 121. They said AI over and over and over again. That's what the show was. It was all about that. And it was painful. It was definitely kind of a redux to when machine learning was their like constant buzz phrase. Every other sentence mentioned machine learning, and we just saw that again, except this time it was even more so. There's, I think, no question, Google is honor bound to now become the company that is solely focused on AI, which is real fun because, you know, AI takes a ton of computing resources and energy, and Google's about to become yet again a company that talks about being green while really burning down the planet. So sorry to go to the not so bright spot, but it is what it is. It's awesome. They should have sacrificed Sundar to Gemini. The same thing with Android bot painting. They should have painted Sundar in Gemini. Apple gonna want to beat it. Okay, so you know, I was debating when to talk about that, but maybe we'll quickly hop over to that, because it does seem like it does seem somewhat pertinent. Apple was previously rumored to be, or not so rumored, I think everybody knows, Apple was talking to Google about licensing Gemini for use on iPhones, and ultimately instead they've decided to go with OpenAI and ChatGPT. So the deal was apparently just inked pretty recently. And sorry, I just grabbed one of the first articles I could find to use as a demonstration, but in short, this is going to be generative AI on the iPhone. How that's going to get used, I'm sure we'll see some goofy presentations. One of the things that I've seen people mention in the past, or raising the question of, is will Apple, or isn't it kind of late for Apple to be cutting a deal like this? Basically kind of waiting to the last minute, which, I mean, first off, it's May. We have, what is it? 4 to 5 months, basically, before they have to launch anything. But I mean, it is Apple. Apple has a pretty long history of working on a lot of projects kind of in secret, and usually a lot of sort of competing projects. It's not like Google, where those competing projects then end up in the open world. By the way, we're actually going to make fun of that in a little bit. But it's more along the lines where Apple likes to work on two or three projects in competition with each other, and sometimes we'll decide either based on the cost of implementing one or the other, or how good the experience is with one or the other. They'll make their decisions on which thing to go with. So in all likelihood, I think OpenAI was probably the cheaper the options, or maybe they didn't want to get too in bed with Google, whatever the reason, who knows. But I have a feeling they were probably working with Gemini, ChatGPT, and probably any other options, which is, I mean, those are the two best ones. Though I suppose they could have worked with Microsoft with Copilot. Regardless, they ended up choosing ChatGPT. My guess is probably for cost, but whatever the case, I expect Apple's already been working with this software for probably several months. I imagine they likely just licensed, or maybe even just worked with the companies to get access to the APIs. They did a lot of development testing. They probably even have working features ready to go that just they need polish. And I expect that's what we're going to see on the iPhones later this year. Being that these are sort of new things and they're very likely going to be pretty expensive, I have a feeling Apple's also not going to roll this out to iPhone 15s, at least not in full. But we'll see. Also, it's worth noting Apple does have its own machine learning hardware, libraries, technology that they've had for a while. In fact, I was a few days ago, I started looking into some AI that I, in theory, might use, or not necessarily AI, but I was looking at the machine learning libraries kind of towards the goal of maybe adding it to a project that I want to build. So yeah, you know, they're not completely out of this, but they're still going to be reliant on another company to provide the big huge model and all of the capabilities that are in the chatbot. So yeah, we'll see. Let's see. So quickly catching up on chat again. Google is constantly looking for something to link all their products together, and they think it will fix all their problems. Awesome. Yeah, it's painfully true, and it's a little too obvious. It almost feels thirsty, but that I'm not sure that's really the right word for it. Let's see. Oh, and you think Apple's still looking at Source and Gemini for some things? I expect so. It would be kind of weird if they aren't, because again, the way things are shaping up, it looks like Google is actually way out ahead of OpenAI when it comes to the actual uses for the technology. But they don't have a thing that is as readily capable of being shown off yet. Let's see, you said also we don't know how much of the model they're going to rely on. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple was running basically their own models and they fall back on someone else. That's certainly possible, and it wouldn't be unusual because that's even what they did with Siri for a long time. When at various points Siri, I mentioned this in Discord actually a day or two ago. Oh wait, actually was that? I'm not sure where that was. Anyway, one of the things that happened with Siri for a long time was if you were to dictate something to Siri or ask Siri to do something, the processing time was actually pretty slow. And in large part, it was because Apple was actually sending those queries out to another service so that it could process everything. Whereas they had their own servers handling some requests, and they were doing on device for other requests. So they had multi-tiered systems for dealing with different types of requests and different connectivity issues, or sorry, the different ways that devices might be connected, whether or not they had like high bandwidth connections or low latency or high latency, anything like that. They were handling those requests differently depending on the circumstance. So I expect the same thing to probably be true with their whatever generative AI they're reliant on. So wherever possible, or eventually wherever possible, I assume they'll probably try to push a lot of stuff onto device, just like Google announced it was going to do, which also probably a topic to hit. There's so many winding topics and so little to say about a lot of it. But I would expect Apple is definitely looking at or eager to move as much onto device as possible, if for no better reason than they don't want to pay to run somebody else's services. And that's every company is going to be in that same place. They're going to want to move as much onto device as possible, unless they're dependent on server usage. So there's going to be a bit of a cat and mouse game here, where some companies desperately want everything on device. Other companies, the providers of the bigger models, are definitely going to want everything happening on a server. Which, all said and done, is another area where I think Google is going to really beat the crap out of OpenAI. And of course, that goes back to the flowchart where obviously Nano was Nano was that key example where they showed off the scam call detection. They're obviously bringing it to Chrome browser. They had let's see, was anything else in this? I guess not. And then anyway, so on device is definitely a big part of Google's strategy. And I brought this up also during the presentation, or maybe just after it, but one of the big things that Google got away with, or not got away with, but really benefited from, was moving so much of Google Assistant, the voice processing, the comprehension, they moved so much of that stuff to the device. And when that happened, it made Assistant feel faster. And when people started doing speed comparisons between an iPhone and like even budget Android phones, the budget Android phones were blowing away the iPhone because Apple was all about the round trips, and Google jammed it into Android, basically saying, no, our thing just, it does what it can on the device. And so we can have dictation that is happening as you speak, not a few seconds later, but as you speak, the words just show up on screen. We can have live transcriptions. That was one of those features that, look, I think a lot of people will never even know those exist. A lot of people will never use them, and a lot of people, even if they know they exist, they're not going to want to use live transcriptions. But there are other people that when they fire up that feature, it is their favorite thing. I've seen so many just overwhelmingly positive responses about being able to do that on Android. And I think Apple now has that, or maybe they announced it. I don't remember if it rolled out yet. But the thing is, like, this was a huge win for Google. And it yet again demonstrates that they can get out ahead of stuff. Now, obviously, they can't beat something like iMessage lock-in, but they've managed to gain a lot of wins in other ways. Diablo. Wonder how far the Pixel 8 will last in getting new stuff. Oh, boy. You know, that's always a good question. Because we've seen time and time again, Google is good at rolling out features. I knew I was going to wake up. And at least it only got the phones. But Big G is really good at rolling out features that initially started as exclusives, and then they quickly roll out to other devices, or, well, other Pixel phones. And then usually like a year later, whatever it is ends up being on every Android device in some way, shape, or form. And this is a time where, at least when we're talking about Gemini Nano, I wouldn't bet on that. In theory, the Pixel 8 is pretty decked out for AI stuff, but I don't know that that's going to be true for all of it. So, it is that big question mark of what is this going to look like in 6 months? Now, given that the Pixel 9 is obviously going to be coming around that time, and it is definitely going to be getting all the latest, most exclusive things, I would expect a lot of stuff to be happening for the Pixel 8, but I don't know, and it's hard to be confident. But yeah, there were things like the scam call detection, which obviously, wait, do I still have that screenshot up? I guess not. Hey, why do I not? That's strange. I would have sworn I did. Wonder if I closed that by accident. Anyway, but yeah, Metric Brawl shared this, and it's dead on. This, first off, I agree with Metric Brawl. This looks like the sort of thing that shows up on it, like in your email saying you've been infected by a virus. So, maybe that's a look that they should try to adjust. Maybe send it back to the drawing board. But even aside from that, this is kind of a weird thing where on device they're going to try to detect, is somebody trying to scam you, like over the phone or via email or wherever else. And particularly like over the phone, it's basically going to be an on-device listening thing, trying to pick out if during a call someone is talking to you saying something that registers as a scam. I'm really curious how much this is going to, one, irritate the living hell out of banks, because bank customer service is probably always going to trigger this. And moreover, how much is this going to how reliable is this going to be? How good is it going to be? Is it going to be too sensitive or not sensitive enough? How much is it going to confuse people? And will people necessarily... How much will it save people? A lot of things will be interesting there. Let's see. Useful for seniors. Very, very possible. And I'd hope so. And that being said, I kind of wonder, will this be making it to other devices, or is this going to be a Pixel exclusive? If it is a Pixel exclusive, that is for some reason really hard for me to say today. I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of people are going to really be annoyed that it's not something that they can roll out, or something that rolls out for everybody that way. Grandma with the Galaxy phone, you want her to be as protected as Grandpa with the Pixel. So, we'll see. Also, How long before Apple copies this? That leaves me with a lot of... I want to see that. Because I'm sure Apple will eventually copy this. It's inevitable. They've tried to copy a lot of other things. It's not unreasonable. But I want to see what they do with it. Because I could easily see Apple coming up with sort of a cleaner looking thing than what we saw Google do. Safety app would be a nice area. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, this is definitely one of those features. It has the potential to be very cool, and it's one of the few things that they demonstrated that actually has function. Like direct, people know what to do with this, or rather they will see it and it does something for end users. So much of what was announced yesterday doesn't really directly relate to what end users are going to see. Okay, let's see. I need to close a few of these tabs. We'll close that one. I don't know yet how much of this I'm gonna have to reference, so this chart will stay open for now. Okay. Okay. So this I'm just gonna kind of start with this because it's sort of on the path. Project IDX. Now, anybody who wasn't watching the developer keynote, you probably wouldn't have heard about this. And that developer keynote was something. You know, I didn't watch it as it was happening. I went back and watched it. Well, it was super early this morning while I was taking some review photos. It was hard to watch because, honestly, from the comments I saw on Discord, I was under the impression that it was like the real announcement, that's the stuff we all wanted to see, and frankly, it felt like more of the same to me. It was more developer oriented, which is better, but it felt like we were still just getting a whole lot of the AI talk. But anyway, Project IDX is this new thing that they are hyping up. It is an IDE, which for non-developers means integrated developer environment or development environment. And basically it is for building software. One of the things that immediately jumped out at me is, why are they doing this in yet another IDE? Why is this a thing instead of just putting it in Android Studio, instead of putting it in any other place? And I couldn't actually come up with an answer to that, except I guess they wanted something that was easily and quickly built, which, to that point, anyone who has used Visual Studio Code, you can look at this and immediately recognize this is just another version of Visual Studio Code. That's what they built here. Or rather, that's what this is based on, is using Visual Studio Code. I'm sure it works. I imagine this will be interesting. I might even give it a shot. The only real catch is I don't know how much I would use any of this, because at the moment I'm not building any AI stuff to run on Android, and I'm not really I don't really have any ideas in mind for big generative AI stuff or any of the other models that they have. I don't really have any particular ideas for stuff I'm going to build. So I don't know how much use I will get with this, but yeah, I don't know. It's there. It would be nice if there was if I had some more idea of what I wanted to do with these sorts of things. Regardless, I did find it interesting that Google, the company notorious for making multiple competing things, was like, you know what? We haven't made enough IDEs this year. Let's make this one. So here we go. We now have Project IDX. Let's see. So, okay. Let's trying to pick. Man, trying to pick even the order of things to tackle in this is wild. Also, just realized I want to slightly adjust the angle of that. Great. It is not super important, but it is always so handy how many like selfie sticks or the like I have in this room. Because if I need to reach anything, I probably have something in here that can reach that far. Oh, there it is. Case in point, and this is real. I actually have a selfie stick that reaches from one wall to the other in this room. So, yeah, that's fun. Okay, anyway. Dumb things to play with. So, okay, so one of the Google developer blogs, they decided to cover 15 things to know for Android developers. And, man, looking at some of the posts that they have put out really, really stretch the limits on how much can you talk about AI before frankly you just need AI to summarize all of it for you anyway. So some of the stuff that they announced is there is Gemini, or rather more Gemini features going into Android Studio. They basically hyped up their well, it was previously called StudioBot. Terrible name. I'm glad that that's done. It's now Gemini in Android Studio, which is at least a name that is coherent, or is reasonably coherent. And yes, it's supposed to help you with doing things like code suggestions, fixing bugs, identifying problems with your code, etc., etc. Which sounds like a good feature. I have so far not really gotten any use out of StudioBot, the little bit of time that I've tried to spend with it, but you never know. Might get there. Let's see. Building with generative AI was that it sounded nice, but it really felt like another one of those tech demos that only applies if you really just want to let generative AI be your whole thing and you're just going to sort of slap an interface on top of it. Though I don't know if this wouldn't have been it. I'm trying to remember, where was the presentation where they took the wireframe that somebody had drawn up and it generated Jetpack Compose interface for it. Again, a lot of this stuff kind of mashed together, but that was one of the spots where it started to look pretty cool. It is interesting. Well, okay, so for anyone who didn't see this, let me paint a quick word picture, and you probably got enough of it from what I just said. But one of the demos that they showed, somebody somebody basically provided the wireframe of an interface. It was a login screen, so it's not a very complicated interface in the first place. This is about as actually, you can practically copy and paste this straight off of, well, certainly off of GitHub, but you could, like Stack Overflow. Guaranteed there's somebody out there that has answered the question, how do you design a login screen somewhere? And all it really had to do was copy and paste that code and make it, shape it so that the wireframe looks the same way. Regardless, it works. And what it did is, in a matter of a few seconds, it generated enough compose code to show that screen, which is a neat trick. It was pretty useful, or it would be pretty useful for quickly generating mock-ups, like functional mock-ups that can actually run to some extent. That's cool. I like that idea. In practice, that's not how interfaces work. Believe me, I kind of have a weird experience with that. A contract job I did years and years ago. We had a UI designer working on the team, and at the time that was kind of a novelty. And this UI designer literally just handed me pages and said, hey, make this. And the pages half the time were just like a few text boxes, some buttons, and they didn't do anything. There was no instructions on what they were supposed to do, what they connected to. I had no API to hook them up to. And I literally was just like, okay, you just want me to make the wireframes for this? Like, okay, I'll do that. And then when it came time for code review, the architect is like, wait, why don't these screens do anything? And it's like, this is what I was told to make. There's nothing else I can do. Like, this is it. And yeah, that led to him and the UI designer having a big fight, which was, I'm glad I got to leave the room for that. And after that, I then actually went to work directly under the architect, and holy crap, he and I did some good work. We did a lot of work really fast, which was neat. Anyway, so I could have invented Figma. No, I doubt that. Instead, I made something that was a very early version of some of the stuff Gmail does, actually, and it ended up being used by Bank of America for loans. That's actually true. Bank of America and a couple of other companies were using the service that we were making to do their loan management. And yeah, I'll just say it was a miracle that company stayed up for any length of time. I think they finally did shut down, but yeah, anyway. Regardless, the fact of the matter is, if you develop a skeleton of an interface and it still doesn't do anything, then you still have to do a ton of code. You still have to make it do things. But it is kind of nice if you've got the starting point for an interface, if you can just say, all right, here's a picture, I just need to make this, can you turn this into the compose code? And the beauty of that is that's the thing that might have taken you half hour or an hour to do. Now it's going to take a minute. And sure, you still have to go back and obviously add a ton of connecting code. You've got to make it actually work. But hey, you still probably saved yourself a good half hour, 45 minutes. Awesome. UI people love to design Figma and devs hate them because they have to translate it. Oh boy, yeah. No. Believe me, I know. I've actually, a good portion of my contracting history has been somebody makes a UI and I get tasked with making it happen, which is weird because all through college I was a back-end or middleware developer, and I never really tried to get into web development, but I ended up doing a lot of web development. I never tried to get into UI development, did a lot of UI development, and even a couple of projects at Android Police, which none sadly ever got to see the light of day, but shout out Liam. That's exactly what I was just thinking. Liam and I actually worked on a custom watch face that never got to see the light of day for reasons that, neither of our faults. Just it never got to get finished. But which is really a shame because that one was a cool one. But oh well, whatever. And Liam actually knew how to design for a developer to work with it. I've worked with some other designers who they want the prettiest picture they can come up with, and they have no concept of how hard some of that is to actually make in real life. But anyway, so moving back to this ridiculous developer blog post. Some of it's ridiculous, some of it's not. One of the things that they actually did do a little bit better was or at least I give them some credit for mentioning, is that they are making Compose a little more adaptive to different layouts, and now it will be presumably easier to support phones, foldables, tablets, and presumably laptop screens, watch screens. One assumes that you'll be able to do a little bit more with this, so this is part of their Compose multi-platform stuff. At least that's how it was presented in the actual presentation. Here they're not mentioning multi-platform so much, but whatever. Regardless, it is neat that they're moving in the direction of making Compose a little bit more UI friendly across all the different things. Let's see. They mentioned home screens with widgets and Jetpack glance. I remember hearing this, but this was a in one ear out the other sort of moment. None of it really jumped out at me as interesting, but it's probably something that will actually be important if you're working on this stuff. So yeah, we'll see. Let's see. I love this. They put up this blog post and are like, oh yeah, we've got some other cool stuff, but we're just gonna put a placeholder in here for it. Not good. Sorry, but just do separate posts. Don't ask people to come back. Developer productivity. Again, they mentioned Compose multi-platform, which, yay, but for those that have ever tried using this, I'm just going to call this out right now. Compose multi-platform worked like garbage for me, and I don't think it's necessarily the fault of the language development. It's the fault of the tool development. For anyone that doesn't know, Compose multi-platform you can build using, technically you can build it using Android Studio, but in more practical terms, you're probably going to use IntelliJ. And at least several times, that just literally didn't work for me. I tried it over and over again, and their templates were broken. it wouldn't build frequently. Basically, Compose Multi-Platform, as of even as little as I think 3 months ago, was pretty janky, at least for building desktop. Maybe it's better for mobile specific, but I don't know. And I mean it. I actually had to spend like several hours just getting the base template working. Regardless, hey, progress is progress, so maybe this one day will be a good thing. And one thing that did jump out at me is they are adding data store and room for multi-platform. For anybody that doesn't know, this is basically the database stuff. So it's not that you couldn't use databases before, but room is a convenient, if you need a relatively simple database, room is a good thing to use, and it's built in for Android developers. So expanding that to multi-platform, that's a positive. Let's see. Compose shared elements. Yeah, I don't think there was anything super new or significant there. Android Studio. Grow your business with Google Play payments. Simplify app compliance with checks. This was not explained for crap during the presentation. And finally, we get to Android 15, which brings us to this post. So Android 15, I'm sure there's a lot more details about this, and I want to look into them. I do. I think that's going to be next week's show, unless there's some roundup out there that actually covers Android 15 in a better capacity. But this is, I believe, this is what Nils was reacting to in Discord. And oh boy, this blog post is special. Okay, it starts out pretty good. Here's new things that are coming to Android. So they've added a feature called Theft Detection Lock. And this is kind of neat. So the idea is, and this has always been brought up as the, like, way that somebody could access your phone if they steal it. And that is, if you got your phone in your hand and it's unlocked, somebody just comes along and yoinks it out of your hand and goes running away, as criminals are known to do. Then this theft detection lock will detect or identify, like, oh, this phone just got jerked out of the hand and it feels like someone's running with it. It will just lock the phone. And that's it. Like, it's not a hard lock. It's not a crazy lockdown procedure. Rather, the idea is it just activates the lock screen. Simple. Nothing too crazy. The girlfriend protection. A little bit, yeah. Yeah, maybe. Who are you texting? Diablo knows what's up. Yeah, that's, I think, genuinely, that's it's going to catch that. It's also going to catch yes, theft. And so kind of a neat feature. I will grant them this. And again, I have a strong feeling that this will end up becoming an iPhone feature in a relatively short time. So again, we got the fraud detection. This time, instead of responding with or instead of listening in on your phone calls, this is a side of it where it detects your apps. By the way, if anybody cares about this link, I'll drop it into chat. But yeah, so this is basically going to be analyzing what's on your screen, analyzing what the app is trying to do or what it includes, and it will give you notifications of some kind or another, basically saying, hey, we kind of think that this app is trying to phish you or steal from you. Don't fall for it. So that's cool. I want to see how it behaves first. Now notice, I've listed two things. Two things. It goes downhill real quick here, boys. Message with RCS in Japan. Literally, this is a new thing coming to Android. Yeah, we're rolling out RCS in Japan. Cool. All right, moving on. Seriously, this is a new thing everyone needs to know is coming to Android. Japan. My Android is getting Japan, I swear. Okay, so add items to Google Wallet from a photo. This, legitimately, okay, this is kind of cool. You can basically take a picture of event tickets, library cards, auto insurance cards, etc., etc. You can take a picture of those, and it creates a digital version that goes into Google Wallet. Basically, just, you know, your typical read the contents of whatever card it is, and it turns it into some kind of wallet entry. That's cool. I like that. The Google Wallet thing already exists. They announced it ages ago. Oh, wonderful. Okay. I honestly do not remember this, and mostly because I don't think I have used Google Wallet in a year. But okay, that's good to know. Wow, that's bleak when it's old stuff. Exploring AR content in Google Maps. This is old. I know this one's old. Because, funny enough, I was sitting in a live stream with a photographer when somebody started talking to the photographer about, oh, did you see the new Google Maps thing where it lets you see what the sun is going to be like at a certain time of day, like where is it going to be hitting? And the photographer's like, oh wow, that is really cool. How new is that? And I was thinking, I feel like I've heard about this, so I looked it up real quick, found the blog post, and sure enough, it was from last year, late last year, but still last year. And it was only rolling out to 15 cities, at least at the time. But yeah, so this is also an old announcement. Leave it to Google to announce really ancient things. Carson bringing up, okay, so the Waltz thing is from at least October 2023. Yikes. Okay, so this one's actually new. Suppose we can zoom in on this too. How about, yeah, about like that. There we go. So you will be able to cast to the built-in display in cars that have Android Automotive, otherwise known as Google Built-in. So, yeah, you'll be able to like cast from streaming services or whatever video provider, and you'll be able to play games like they mentioned Angry Birds. So this is stuff that's going to be coming to the car. Obviously, you won't be able to do this while you're driving. That's a given. It's not said here, but that is one of the things. So nice, but Carson, yes, Google Built-in. It is possibly the worst name they've ever come up with. Look, honestly, like Allo was a better name. Google Built-in is just so bad. But anyway, yeah, this is one of those features that I struggle to care. It's not that it isn't useful, it's not that it isn't kind of cool, but for one, it's already to an extent on Android Auto. Partially. And honestly, I just don't care that much. It's nice that it's there, but it's not super special. Because most people don't just sit in their car parked and play games or watch TV. Some will, but it's not super common. Rivian, yeah, I think it's just like the last couple years Rivian started shipping Google built-in. I might have that wrong, but it's I believe pretty recent. Let's see. They mentioned finding new AI content, or sorry, finding new content using AI on Google TV. Remember, these are the big new things coming to Android. These are supposed to be big things coming to Android. Oh, AI is going to help you find stuff to watch on TV. Guys, come on. Do better than this. These are some of the lamest announcements. Okay, improve your training with Wear OS 5 updates. Really? So we're just gonna jump to the we swear you can do better workouts? Okay. And connect your device ecosystem. Yeah, they're also just hyping up fast pair. And kind of casually dropping in the, oh, by the way, there's Bluetooth trackers coming soon, which by all accounts it was originally supposed to be end of May. Well, not originally, but fairly recently it was supposed to be end of May for all of the Bluetooth trackers to roll out. Now, I believe it has slipped to June. Let's see. Double checking this. I believe that's still accurate. Yep. Okay, so just for example, here is Chipolo's page, and it says so the first okay, sorry, the first batch is out, the second batch will be shipping June 10th. So okay, maybe I guess they actually are out already. But yeah, this is these are not becoming a thing fast at all, but I guess that is what it is. Anyway, that's it. That was the big announcements for Android. Half of these didn't really feel like announcements for Android. I mean, yay, I've got a Japan with my RCS now. That's super awesome, but half of this stuff didn't deserve to be counted in this list. So yeah, anyway. Am I sounding like too much of a downer? Or is this how everybody felt about this Google I/O so far? But hey, it's not over. It's not over. Maybe tomorrow. There might be stuff tomorrow. We don't know. Okay, anyway. So I will close that one. One thing I think at least I'm somewhat happy to see is Google did confirm that the headset it's working on with Samsung will be announced at a separate event. In a way, I was worried that they would talk about this at I/O, because we all knew I/O was going to be AI heavy. Boy, was it. More than I think anyone expected. But I'm kind of happy that they're not trying to shove the XR, the mixed reality headset into I/O, given that so much focus was going to be on AI. So this means, at least the way I'm interpreting it, that we're actually going to get like a real attempt, something more valid that will be its own announcement. That being said, I'm not going to get into... I'm not going to get in super deep into this, but a little bit of this description, just somehow I got Stadia vibes off of this. Kind of, hey, we're going to do a separate event for this. We're going to highlight this new thing. It's going to be pretty special, blah, blah, blah. In weird little ways, I felt like I was reading about Stadia again. And I don't know why. I can't explain it. But it just had a little bit of that feeling like this is an outsider project. And being that it's an outsider project that requires a lot of buy-in from other developers and a lot of interested parties. And after Stadia, I don't know that that's going to happen very easily. So the headset, it gives me concerns. That's my stance. It gives me concerns. So, regardless, yay for headset. Hopefully that's coming soon, because I feel like I need to see something. Forgive me for saying it this way. I need to see something interesting. Google is not exciting me this year, for sure. But one thing that did leave a lot of people excited, kind of have to talk about this one. The Chrome OS on Android thing. We were talking about this in Discord earlier. So the really super basic summary of this is a version of Chrome OS augmented so that it can run virtualized on Android, turned up. Without there's not a lot of technical detail worth getting into, but put simply, this is an interesting prospect. Obviously, the immediate thing, which Rita really nailed it with her editorial, is this is basically the Android desktop mode that we expected. It was basically the thing that was sort of promised a long time ago, or expected a long time ago. And it's not really that different from something Microsoft tried to do with its... I want to say it was like a Windows Unified or something. Anyway, whatever it was, where you could plug your Windows phone into a monitor and keyboard, and lo and behold, it would be like, oh, well, here, we'll give you the actual full desktop interface. It's just running on your phone. It was a neat idea. It was something that I think a lot of people would very much like. It's the classic sort of using a naked robotic core that you carry around, and you can hook it to a monitor, a dumb terminal in effect, and just lo and behold, you have your whole computer right there, and it can follow you wherever you go. Obviously, there are problems with this design. It's not really going to be suitable for every purpose, but hey, it's neat that you'd be able to do it. Well, the unfortunate side effect is Google has since confirmed, yeah, this isn't happening. Apparently it was a goof. They have no plans on shipping, supposedly have no plans on shipping Chrome OS for Android, Chrome OS for Android, basically. And effectively don't ask for it. Now, like I said in Discord, my stance on this is, one, I kind of don't believe that somebody sat down and did all of this stuff. By the way, the way that this was explained by, what was his name? I don't want to bother looking. Anyway, the way that it was explained by, I think his name is Samir. The way he explained it is basically that this was done as part of a tech demo to show off Android 15's virtualization capabilities, not so that they could actually run Chrome OS on Android. So it was there just as a supposed tech demo. I kind of don't believe that. I think that's BS, because that's a lot of development work. It's not something that you just do in an afternoon, like on a whim. This is something that takes some time to actually get it working. Or at least that's how it was presented. So I can't help but think this is probably a real project that Google is doing for some reason, because Google these days doesn't like investing in projects that don't lead to real products or something that they can really show off. And it feels like we're not seeing the end of this, or rather that what I think they're doing is trying to assess interest. In other words, build this thing, get it to a working state, and put it out there. Then see if people want it. If they do, maybe this is a route that Google goes to ultimately replace Chrome OS by keeping it Chrome OS and just making it something that lives in a virtual machine. I don't know. It's so hard to guess with these kinds of things, but I have a feeling we haven't heard the last of this, and it might be one of those transitional steps towards it giving Chrome OS an end of life, sunsetting it to some extent. But if that is part of the case, it's honestly, it's going to be at least a couple of years out before we hear anything. So I don't want to overthink this one. Let's see. But on the subject of overthinking things, let's talk more about AI. On the subject of overthinking things, the US Senate has come up with a way to spend multiple tens of billions of dollars on AI, and they somehow still are not regulating it. Or even getting close. Truth is, this is not like even The Verge's headline doesn't come close to actually talking about regulating AI. So, oops, where did I drop that thing? There it is. Okay. Sorry, as usual, I'm fiddling with something in my hands while I talk. So, there's not a lot here, but essentially what has happened is the Senate has come up with a proposal for basically making plans to one day regulate AI. And this isn't just about regulating AI, but it's actually about developing its own uses of AI and then progressively taking that as sort of a proof of concept for maybe why certain things need to be regulated, or finding things that should be limited in very specific ways, or possibly shooting down the use of AI in certain ways. So the US government for once has taken the smallest possible step of saying one day possibly we might, maybe, look, we could think about maybe you know, Uwu will regulate some AI. But please give us $32 billion first. That being okay, so mocking aside, at least this shows some sign of that they're paying attention. Look, I'll take that. At this stage, that's something I'm willing to just take it. Hopefully they get their act together and we get to see something a little bit more tangible. I'm not holding out a lot of hope that it's going to happen anytime soon. And even if I recall, this article said I swear it had a timeline where they basically said they weren't even trying to do anything before. Maybe the article doesn't have that. But regardless, they aren't really aiming super high for regulations. I think this is more sort of a fact-finding mission to figure out what they would regulate and coming up with good, hopefully a good idea of how to regulate. I don't know that they're going to achieve that. I like to think so, but we'll see. That being said, I am admittedly in that camp of thinking regulation good, but we definitely don't want to go too overboard on it. And look, my career paths are literally like my two things that I do best are both being targeted by AI. So it's not like I don't sort of have good reason to not want it to get too far too fast. But at the same time, you know, I do recognize that AI is one of those things. It's definitely part of society now. We're not escaping that. So it's better to embrace it, knowing what you're getting into, rather than trying to shut it down and watch as it just bowls you over eventually anyway. Okay, let's see. So, as wild as this is going to seem, I am very nearly out of topics. Curvy, you wish Congress would regulate algorithms. So, the problem with that is, well, there are a few problems with that. The biggest one, or the easiest one, is, what does that even mean? Now, I know what you mean, and I think they would know what you mean. What I assume you're talking about is basically saying we should not have algorithms that are trying to use people's interests in a way that borders on addiction, and trying to serve them something that is, I don't want to say dangerous. I that's obviously the intent, but you don't want to necessarily serve people stuff that's so addictive that it sort of locks them into a website. And you certainly don't want sort of the Twitterification where all it's going to do is serve you the thing that's going to make you more amped up and more hostile. Because, yeah, that sort of behavior is really bad. And the algorithms do support it. You don't want your data being used against you in a detrimental way. Okay. I don't know how you regulate that. In part because that is a very generalized way of saying it. Man, that one is hard to address. It really is. Okay, really quick. Earlier, Austin said, I feel like it can be all solved by regulating consumer data. Carson agreeing with this. So in my mind, I think there are a few different aspects to this. There's the consumer data in the sense of like what data brokers are getting. So that is effectively, I hate to, in this one instance, I hate to use the word spying, but it's as accurate as we're going to get. But you have a lot of companies spying on users, kind of always knowing where they're at, knowing what they're into, knowing their interests. They've collected so much data about each person that you kind of just know what can be advertised to them. You kind of know what stuff they're into. If you're Austin, you need a flowchart. By the way, in private there is a meme. I wish Corbin was here because he is such a fan of this. But let's just say, Austin, all you need is another Google sheet. If he were here, he'd know. He would get this. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that aspect of consumer data, and I almost don't want to call it consumer data. I want to call it user data, because consumer inherently has that whole like advertising, marketing, purchasing aspect to it, whereas I don't think that is the end all be all of it, because even something as simple as figuring out how to market to somebody, or how to get someone to become like loyal to your company, your product, your brand, anything like that, even if it doesn't mean getting them to purchase something, it can have other impacts. So yeah, that gets into weird territory. Oh, Curvy, wow, you're making this difficult. Cause wait, what? Okay, I'm just gonna I'm gonna directly disagree with the part where skill-based matchmaking. Well, you're kind of inferring ish that skill-based matchmaking should be legislated out of the game industry. I don't know if that's really what you intended that to say, but that's it's kind of an inference of it. Which, yeah, I'm just not with you on that. Like, if you want to say a game shouldn't have it, okay, that's one discussion. To say that there should be legislation preventing it, yeah, no. If a game developer wants it, like, I can't come up with a reason why it shouldn't be there. The players don't have to play that game. Like, it's as simple as that. There are plenty of other games out there that don't do skill-based matchmaking, or at least a version of it that you would oppose directly. So yeah, I don't think that's something that needs U.S. law in the book saying it's illegal. But the notion that anything is collecting data about you and possibly using it for, let's say, manipulative or controlling purposes, if it's designed around the idea that you're not allowed to, or well, not allowed, but the idea that it's going to, let's say, manipulate you into spending more on skins in a game or loot packs or something like that. Yeah, I do think that there's probably room to regulate that. So, you know, because there have been a lot of games that have been designed around the idea of getting, basically taking advantage of the part of the brain that gamblers notoriously struggle with. The thing that makes them addicted is that feel-good effect of having that win or feeling like they just got something. And obviously that works on everyone to an extent, but gamblers in particular are extremely weak to this. So they react and they start chasing any little win with almost like it's a drug. And so, yeah, that part needs to be legislated. But it becomes hard to legislate everything, because if you're not actually using user data, if you're just kind of being manipulative in a way that happens to target a subset of people by the nature of how it's created, not by the actual direct use of user data. I mean, that's the thing that should be legislated. It has less to do with user data in that instance. I don't know. It's hard to pin that one down. Regardless, I am on the side of, we do need to come up with some things to hamper some of these models. Getting rid of outright gambling would be a good big win. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's about the most I had to say on this, which, believe it or not, leads me into, I didn't think that it was going to happen this fast, but it's time to talk about the new Assassin's Creed. And this wasn't really covered in a lot of the coverage for this, but Mac Rumors, and certainly a few others, did call out one very, very key detail. Assassin's Creed Shadows coming to Mac. Somebody, anyone, did it? Was this not predicted? I mean, maybe not. It's maybe, look, it's one game, but this is a AAA game that is going to be appearing on Apple Silicon Macs. It's going to be there day one, November 15th, at least that's the idea. And I believe they have not, I could be wrong. Actually, I'm going to take a quick look. I don't believe they've shared like system specs. And I honestly don't think they would know, even if, yeah, they haven't shared anything that specific as far as I'm aware. Okay, yeah. No. Oh, wait, is this, could they put it in here? Just out of curiosity. Anyway, bring it to the iPad Pro. I imagine they could. Let's see though. I would love it if, yeah, of course they don't mention, yeah, they're not going to mention system specs. I think that's actually probably a given. But hey, I do see, I mean, this is neat. This is kind of neat. And it's the thing that I've been saying for a while. It's happening way, way, way later than I originally thought it was going to. But we do have a game on the horizon. And if it does well, and who knows, it's hard to predict these things. But if this one does well, I think gaming on the Mac is going to become a much more commonly accepted thing. Now, is it going to take the world by storm? Hell no. But it has the potential to actually like draw a crowd. This is the sort of thing that we've all known was, or I think was a given. But yeah, so this is that, which let's see, where did I put it? Oh boy, I don't remember. Anyway, there was also that news about OpenAI, their Mac app. Scrolling back through Discord because I'm pretty sure that's where it was. OpenAI announced that they're coming out with a ChatGPT app, and the first place that it's going to appear is on Mac. And their answer when somebody asked them about it, their answer was basically, oh yeah, well, that's where the majority of our users are, or that's where the largest share of our users are. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. Is there are a lot of Mac users out there. This is no longer a small group. Wow, how much scrolling do I have to do to hit this? I don't know. Maybe it's on a different Discord. Anyway, wow, we really did talk a lot during the last I'm brain farting so hard right now. We really did talk a lot during the Google I/O presentation. Sorry, just putting that up there to remind everybody that we're still catching up on shots. Anyway, so but yeah, I think at this stage, Ubisoft, whichever, the fact that they're recognizing Mac as a viable target platform is very telling, and OpenAI recognizes this, and other companies are clearly going to be coming around. So we're getting closer and closer to that point where if you want to be a gamer and you're on a Mac, that's actually going to be like an option. You're not going to be left out in the cold. You're not going to have to jump through stupid things like dual booting or running something in a VM for no good reason. Hopefully that stuff will kind of be a thing of the past. I don't know if it will be, but it'd be nice. And yay. Awesome. Well, there wasn't anything else to do. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, anyway, I think that's, as I'm scrolling back, I'm not seeing anything else. So yeah, I think that was about it for this week. There was so much more. There was a lot that actually happened, and there are going to be more announcements, I think. I don't know. Google sort of implies, it was in this post. Yeah, Google's implying they have more developer related things coming, supposedly tomorrow. And I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if it's true. But it seems to be something that they're claiming. So maybe we'll see. Imagine paying for a flight and hotel room to sit through I/O this year. Oof. So bad. Oh no. Like I said in Discord, back when I was covering Google I/O as like part of the job, and I mean actively, like at the event, writing articles in the press area, doing stuff like that. Oh man, back then, if we had a Google I/O like we just had, oh boy, that would have been so relaxing. Like, I would have had nothing to do. I would have just been sitting there like, cool, they announced a bunch of AI stuff. We got nothing. And yeah, and then I would have just sat there. The counter is, of course, what a waste of money. And I feel like everyone who just went to Google I/O has got to be sitting there. The crowd was so underwhelmed too. You know, I don't think they were as bad as they should have been. Which is, I know, kind of a weird thing to say, but there were some people in the crowd that were clearly pretty jazzed up. The overall crowd, yeah. Yeah, it was less energetic than usual. But I wouldn't say that they were super like dead. It just, they didn't have that typical Google I/O amped up quality. It's mainly Google employees too, right? No. Well, it's definitely a portion of the crowd is Google employees. That part, yes. But no, what they did is Austin. Yeah, Google runs a lottery for employees. Yes, but it was also a lot of like GDEs, Google Development Experts, which are people who don't work for Google, but they work on various. They're heavy users, effectively, and usually like mentors or community, like they're relevant in various communities for programming languages or libraries, stuff like that. They invited a lot of those people. Let's see. Oh, that's good. Google literally managed to make even AI boring. What a shame. Out of curiosity. Okay, it's a funny call out, but I was half expecting this guy to be one of the AI apologists. Is payment for being a GDE. At this stage, it actually kind of is. Because yeah, they really do sort of cater to that person now when it comes to IO. GDEs do too much for free. Some of them, yeah. Yeah, I've known a few of them, and yes, they do too much for free. There are others where them being GDEs they have turned it basically into tons of speaking gigs. So I mean, yes, they're being a GDE, and that part they're doing for free, but because they're GDEs, they've turned it into a lot of conference speaking gigs, panels, stuff like that. Basically, they're getting paid a lot because they're GDEs. I'm not going to name names. You can mostly just look at if you look at a conference speaker list and see a name appearing at like almost every major conference, and then you look to see that they're GDEs, yeah. Though it's not hard to find that list, or rather find the people who fit that description. But there's that, plus a lot of those people typically kind of use it as resume fodder, as they should. I mean, there's no reason not to. Oh, I feel like I'm gonna regret this, but why is President Carter trending? Oh, that's a shame. Okay, apparently he is he has not passed, but he is on the way. So, well, that's unfortunate. Nice guy. Okay, so let's see. Anyway, before I doom scroll that too much. So yeah, I don't know. The question I have to ask myself at this point: worst IO or worst IO that will ever happen? I mean, it wasn't good. I don't think that this was an IO intended for developers, and I've complained many times that IO became a fan event. And I don't think it was even that. I wasn't too happy about IO just being a fan event, where honestly, like, half the attendees, you could tell were not developers. They just wanted to show up and be part of a Google thing, or they wanted to, or they, you know, going back to when handing out hardware was the thing. A lot of them were just people who wanted to get free hardware, or not free, but they wanted to get that hardware early. That's like, those days are gone, and it's no, I don't think this was a fan event. I think this was so focused on catering to, again, investors, the stock market, and the people who showed up. I feel for them. I actually kind of do, because even if they got in for free, like, yeah, some of these people traveled pretty far to go to this, and it's gotta suck. It was not a worthwhile event to sit there and watch from the crowd. I don't think it was even really worth watching from my my position in a seat. I would have. I think I could have spent the time better. Which obviously I'm not going to. I was still gonna watch no matter what, but yeah, it feels like this is IO going in the wrong direction, and, you know, far be it for me to tell a multi-billion-dollar company what they're doing wrong. And I'm not even sure that they were necessarily doing it wrong, but I will say that this is not the sort of thing I am super enthusiastic or interested in continuing to watch. So, in all fairness, if next year's Google I/O is anything like this one, I'm probably just gonna stop watching I/Os. And if that's what ends up happening, I think that's a bad sign for Google. I think they're going to have to start paying more and more attention to how people are reacting to these types of announcements, because this wasn't a very good one, or at least I don't think it catered well to the audience that Google usually would like to attract to watching an event like this. So yeah, that's actually my take on this. Anyway, I think that about covers it. So what's going on this weekend? For those who the death of tech enthusiasm. I mean, kind of. Yeah, it felt that way. Though I would argue the last couple of months have really sort of had that. And by the way, just as a reminder, we do have WWDC coming up in, what is it, 2 weeks or 3? Maybe I forget exactly, but we do have that coming up. We also have, let's see, is it next? Yeah, next week. Microsoft Build. Yes, for real. Microsoft Build is coming up next week, and I guarantee, in fact, there it is. Topics like building co-pilots, generative AI, securing applications, cloud platforms, low code, and more. So if you thought you had maybe a break from AI until the WWDC event, nope. Microsoft Build next week. So we're gonna hear all about this all over again. Yeah, exactly. Diablo with the exact perfect emote for that. Anyways, so yeah, I'm honestly kind of dreading this. I don't know that I'm going to be able to watch this, if I'm being brutally honest, but we'll see. So Yeah. Yeah. With that, that'll... I think it's safe to say that's going to be the topic of next week. But in the meantime, let's see. As far as this weekend streaming goes, I don't actually know what's going to be happening. I need to test my PlayStation controller, see if it can be convincingly made to work. If not, for those that don't know, didn't see it, my PlayStation controller started crapping out on me live on this last Sunday, so it's dying. So I am going to try to figure out what to do about that, but yeah, in the meantime, I don't know if that's going to impact being able to stream this weekend. Let's see. First time hearing about the Microsoft Build event before the actual date. You swear everyone forgets about Build? Oh no, everyone does forget about Build. I don't know why I remember it. I mean, I kind of know because I get the emails, and every once in a while I actually look at them. So I knew it was coming up. I didn't know when the actual date was going to be, but I knew to look. And I've long since figured out that Build almost always happens in between Google I/O and WWDC. As long as those two are not literally just 1 week apart, Build will find a way to squeeze right into the middle, because that is the only time anyone's possibly going to pay attention to it. Which is kind of funny and sad in its own little ways. Anyway, so yes, my I don't know what the situation's going to be with gaming this weekend. I will try to get that sorted out however I can. Maybe it will mean streaming something completely different than what I've been streaming. Maybe it will be I don't know, something else. But I'll see what I can do. And then of course, I already said it, RambleCast will be back next week. Hopefully we'll have a Corbin here, because I'm sure he will very, very desperately want to talk about like Outlook or something. Or maybe we can get him to disclose the number of primates that he witnessed being killed. And for those that don't actually get that joke, he went to go see the new Planet of the Apes movie in IMAX. So that's where he is right now, or was actually. I think he's probably already out of the movie, but yeah, that's what he actually went to do. So anyway, thank you all for coming by, hanging out. All of a sudden I've got just enough energy for the outro. Thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation, chatting with me. Again, I'll hopefully be back this weekend with some games. Definitely back next week with some more RambleCast. For those who have supported the channel, David, Austin, Carson, Diablo, and Curvy Mermaid, thank you. You're awesome people. And for those that would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon. The links work. I've checked them in the past. And believe me, any little bit helps. It keeps this channel going. So, with that, I thank you all for being here, and I will catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.